Every scar on this planet has a story. Every border, every disputed line carved through mountains or rivers, every city rebuilt from ash. For 10,000 years of recorded human history, conquest has been the engine of civilization. Empires rose by taking. Nations were born by fighting. The map of the world is not just geography, it is a record of every war ever won. But there are places on this earth where that pattern breaks. Places where armies arrived and failed. Not because they were weak, but because the land itself refused to be conquered. These are the countries that have never been successfully invaded. And this is the story of how geography decides who survives. Japan. In 1274, the Mongols crossed the sea with one of the most powerful armies in history. They landed, they fought, and they began to win. And then the weather changed. A storm formed over the sea, catastrophic. Ships were torn apart and fleets vanished. An army that had never lost on land drowned in the ocean. 7 years later, they tried again, bigger and stronger, and again the storm came. The Japanese called it kamikaze, divine wind. But it was geography, and centuries later, even modern military planners calculated that invading Japan would cost hundreds of thousands of lives. The ocean never stopped defending it. Nepal. The Himalayas are the highest barrier on Earth. To the south, jungles that once killed invading armies with disease and heat. To the north, mountains so high they stopped movement entirely. In between sits Nepal. In 1814, the British Empire invaded expecting a quick victory. Instead, they found narrow mountain paths, broken supply lines, and fighters who knew the terrain perfectly. The war dragged on and losses mounted, and in the end, Britain did not win. They negotiated and recruited the Gurkhas, because if you cannot defeat the mountain, you align with the people who are part of it. Ethiopia. In 1896, a global belief collapsed that European armies could not be defeated by non-European forces. Italy invaded expecting an easy victory. Instead, they faced terrain they did not understand, highlands and narrow approaches. When the fighting began, it ended quickly. The Italian army was destroyed, with thousands killed and thousands captured, and Ethiopia remained independent not by isolation, but by victory. Thailand. Some nations survive war, others avoid it. Thailand sat between the British and French empires. Either could have taken it, together they could have erased it. But Thailand understood that each empire feared the other more than they wanted Thailand. So it adapted, negotiated, modernized, and when necessary conceded land at the edges to protect the core, not weakness strategy. While its neighbors fell, Thailand remained. Switzerland. In 1942, Europe was under Nazi control, almost all of it, except Switzerland. Surrounded, outnumbered, exposed, and never invaded. The Alps made invasion costly and fortifications made it worse. But neutrality made it unnecessary. Switzerland was more valuable intact than conquered. So it endured, because sometimes survival means being too expensive to destroy and too useful to lose. Bhutan. A different strategy, not strength, not diplomacy, silence. Bhutan limited outside contact, controlled tourism, and avoided attention. Between India and China, it remained small, quiet, and independent, because the most dangerous thing for a small nation is to become important to powerful ones. Bhutan chose not to be. 6 countries, 6 strategies. Oceans, mountains, highlands, diplomacy, neutrality, isolation. Different methods, same result. They made invasion more costly than victory, and every empire that came for them is gone. Geography did not guarantee their survival, it created the conditions. The survival was the decisions, the resistance, the strategy that was human, and every generation chose to keep it that way.